The 80-20 rule for making real money in real estate. Let's talk about it.
Real money in real estate.
Yeah. All right. So to begin, I was just at a marketing conference. I paid extra for the day with Dan. Dan Kennedy, for those of you who don't know who he is, he's like the godfather of info marketing. He birthed Craig Proctor, Mike Reese and Jake Kinder, NAEA, Frank Kern, like just a slew of people. This was the guy behind the scenes teaching everybody how it's done. He's old, so I was like, man, I better get there and see him. And he starts out by saying, my favorite thing to tell people is their quote back to him, which is, but my business is different. Everybody says that to me. He's like, everybody thinks that my business is different. He said, but there is no difference. He said, you take a casino and compare that to your business. It's the same. You have to have a flow of customers into whatever widget you're selling. He said, you can take the widget and replace it out with whatever the hell your business is. It doesn't matter. It's all the same. You got to have a flow of customers into the business of selling your widget. And he said that you're really in the business of marketing, and the widget is what you're marketing to sell. And like, we know this instinctively. We've always said this. It's the truth, right? The best marketer wins, not the best agent. I was actually a horrible agent for a long time, kicking people's ass because I had better marketing, right? Like, I could tell horror stories about my files and things screwed up and not crossing T's and dotting I's, but like, I just had a volume of business. And, you know, when it comes to the 80-20 rule, 20% of your efforts get you 80% of your results. But like, most people are walking around every day, reinventing their day, thinking they're doing something different. They're doing all the same crap. And most of the time they're avoiding the real work by procrastinating, by doing all this busy work of that 20%. Yeah.
Yes, very much so. I actually just...
You just fired somebody today over this.
Yes, that is true. The 80-20 rule too. I just heard a stat the other day. There's a ButcherBox CEO was talking with Alex Hormozy, and he was like, if you ever look at big organizations, you can see the drivers of the business as like a square root. So if you have 144 employees, there's probably 12 that are really driving the business.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's just kind of a different way of saying the 80-20 rule.
100%. Yeah. Dude, I just watched The Founder again the other day about McDonald's, and when he was walking them through how they got to their speedy system, he said, when we looked at our drive-in restaurant, he said, we realized that like 80% of our sales were these 20% of products. He was like burgers, fries, and shakes. And most people never have that realization about real estate because they don't look at it as a business. They're like, oh, it's a service-based thing, and I do all these things, and there's a lot of black boxes, you know. But the reality is, if you break down what gets you the results, there's only a few things that you need to be focused on, and that's your 20%. And step one, of course, is having systems in place to bring you consistent flow of customers into your shop, right? Every single place that you go, I don't care if it's an Apple store or a casino like I was just at, or a Walmart, like that's their marker, right? How many people are coming through the door? What do we need to do to increase that? And you get these big Madison Avenue, you know, marketing companies. And because these companies are so big, they can throw crap loads of money at it and then measure it quarterly. Oh, we got an uptick of 5%, right? But the average agent doesn't have the luxury of just throwing that kind of money at it with branded advertising and hoping that it has an impact in the outcome, right? And so there's all kinds of ways. There's like a million maps to get there. You know, you can do open houses. You can do cold calling. You can do, I mean, what are some other things that suck? Door knocking, right? Like,
you get floor time.
Floor time. Yes. Uptime. Where you get to be office secretary for free in the hopes that the phone rings and you possibly get yourself a customer. But the problem is they don't train you on even how to deal with that phone call. So like, you're just trying to wing it, you know? Oh. Yeah. Like a clerk at a perfume counter, right? Like, would you like to smell this?
At our live boot camps, we used to do competition calls. We'd be like, you know, oh, I don't know if I can ever get past this person, blah, 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 blah. So we'd call them live on stage and call into their office and just rip them apart because most people don't ever train anybody on how to do that. So,
I saw Moses do that. Yeah. Like at my first DGS ever, I saw him do that. He played a call with a Coldwell Banker agent, and like he was really ripping on Coldwell because they kind of did him dirty. But yeah, it's astounding. I mean, it's real easy to poke holes from the outside, right? Even if you do have some training for that ISA or the secretary or whoever's taking up time, they're probably going to screw it up because there's not an accountability mechanism.
Right.
And I was just telling, one of our salespeople, like, you know, speed of the leader is speed of the team. So you have to master this first, and you have to do a good job of it before you're going to be able to delegate it, before you're going to be able to believe in what you're telling somebody else to do. And so, when it comes to, like I said, the customer mechanism of getting people into your shop, so to speak, you have to have something that works consistently, that draws them to you. My favorite, of course, I'm biased, is always going to be direct response marketing. But that's just because, like, I applied it towards real estate. I applied it towards mortgage. Hell, I applied it towards storage unit facilities, right? Like, literally,
Right.
Yeah, I was like, it was a call to action, dollar move-in special, right? And then I had a domain name, right, that I could track to see if they came from that particular ad, and that's direct response. We apply it to this business, right? We scaled it to 8 figures. I mean, like, it just works. And it works in a way where once you have it in place, you can sleep well at night because you know that steady flow, that steady stream of customers coming into your store is going to eventually turn into dollars, And so, like, that's step one. That's the main thing. That's the 20%. That's anything other than that, if you don't have that done, that's the first order of business. You can screw up everything else, right? You can screw up your files. You can screw up your closing coordinator. You can screw up the closing coordination. You can screw it all up, right?
That my sister's a TC.
Yeah, transaction coordinator. Like, that was the most embarrassing thing for me. Would be like, I'd get to the closing table and I'd have like a crap file, with all kinds of doodles, nothing in order, and somebody needs something. I'm like, but I had 4 closings that day, and at least I got that far. So,
Right.
You can go and backfill all the stuff that you screw up if you got that part right, The second thing that I always talk about is getting face-to-face with them, right? So it's one thing to have a flow of steady, ready-to-act customers. It's another thing to have the skills to turn them into face-to-face meeting. Those 2 components, right? And even with face-to-face, turn them into face-to-face is only half the battle. You still have to turn them into a customer. So you got to have a process in place for that. I hopped on a call yesterday where I was talking about this with a guy, and he's complaining about commission negotiations. He's like, I'm in this market, and I'll call the listing agent, and they'll tell me they're paying, 2 apples. And by the time I write the contract, they're like, oh, the seller changed their mind. They're only going to pay 1 apple. And I'm like, bro, that should never happen to you, because you should have a system in place that allows you to make sure that you always get a buyer's agency and you never leave your commission up to a listing agent.
Bada bing, bada boom. And this is awareness that it took me a long time to get to, but it was like walking into an office where we have a marketing department, we have a sales team, we have operations, we have finance, and just realizing one day I was walking in and I was like, man, a real estate agent, the average real estate agent walks in and they have to wear all these hats. They have to go in between all of these offices and do all of these functions, right?
100%.
The tech team usually don't have to worry about those because they'll hire some kind of CRM or whatever else.
Right.
But for the most part, like, all of the customer service is all them. So they gravitate towards those things that busy work that are not getting them any more clients, when that's the most important part.
That's the only thing you got to do. You got one job, right? Like Dan Kennedy says, your job is marketing. Your job is marketing, and you're applying that. And so, I don't think that I drove that point home enough. Once you master that, it applies to any business you want it to apply to.
Correct.
And so, like, if there's a life skill that you could have and you could master, that component of marketing, specifically direct response marketing, if you look behind the curtain of any top agent in the North America, in the United States and Canada, that's what you'll find is 9 times out of 10 the driving force behind their business. Like, they've got that part down, so much so that they can go and they can arbitrage by hiring other agents on their team and giving them that business for a cut of their commission.
Yes.
Right. That's the game. Yeah. It's the same in an attorney's office. Yeah. Interestingly, right? Like, they've got the business coming in, right? They're able to give it to junior associates. They're able to get a piece of the hourly billing that they're giving their junior associates. It's not different, right? But that component of being able to get the business is the hardest part of almost any business, unless you take the time to study it. And it doesn't take long, a year, 2 years, Nowadays, because of so many companies out there, even like ours, so many agents just pay that part and don't learn it. And the problem is, and you've seen this, like, if a big company like Zillow just changes their structure and like, hey, we're not going to do, iBuyers anymore, and your business was relying on that for a huge pillar, all of a sudden you're just out in the wind. Poof. Because, like, you didn't do that. They did that. And that's not a competitive advantage. That's like building on a foundation of sand, you know? And so our goal is and always will be to like pull back the curtain, show people how the leads come in, show them what they're responding to, show them how to do that part so that, you know, for the ambitious people that want to grow, they're like, okay, let me try that.
Yes.
You know, and then they're not beholden to us or any other company for the rest of their career.
Yeah. Let me become my own little Zillow where I can spit out people that just sit there and bake all day long.
100%. You know, I don't remember who taught us to look at them as like listeners to your radio station, your database.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But
I forgot that too.
It's so true. Like you, the bigger your database gets, the more you have people paying attention to you, the more people pay attention to you, the more they're going to pay you, right? And so people pay with attention first, and then they pay with their money second. I had people sit on my list, you know, that I'd given up on, sometimes for years, and they'd come out of nowhere, and they'd be like, "Hey, you just sent me this listing. I'd like to go look at it." I'm like, "Well, who the hell are you?" You know, like, "Oh my God, I forgot about you. I talked to you 2 years ago, right?"
Right.
But I had systems in place and mechanisms to continue to nurture them. And other examples of that are I get a hot listing, I blast it out to my database, and then it takes on a viral effect. Like they're forwarding that email on to their friends and their family. And next thing I know, I got like 6, 7 people coming out of the woodwork like a day later, you know, wanting to see that house.
Yeah.
And obviously, not all of them are going to be able to buy it. So guess what? I'm here to serve them for the next one too, right? Like that's the game, you know? Yeah. But that process, it's just so fun once you get it down because it's addictive, right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's like bending the world to your will, you know, like attracting people to you versus your competitor on a consistent basis to where it just spits out money on the other end. There's nothing cooler than that, in my opinion. Dan Kennedy, since we're talking about him, he always said that it's the next best thing to printing money because it's words on paper or these days words on a screen that bring you dollars. Like, and it's not illegal, which is dope, you know? Yeah. And so I just can't stress that part enough. Like if you don't understand direct response market, if you don't understand how to get customers into your store, so to speak, on a consistent, regular basis, then the symptoms of that are like you're worrying about where your next commission is coming from. You have anxiety on a consistent, regular basis. You're fumbling around when you do get a customer, just trying to fall all over them, kissing their ass, having commission negotiations that are robbing you of your value, right? It's like Tommy Boy.
Yes.
You know? Yeah.
We just had a agent yesterday that wants to come on board. Can't fit it in the budget right now.
Yeah.
And
knock over a gumball machine,
yeah,
man.
Well,
like get resourceful.
Yeah. She paid on this last deal. Her check was $3,500. She forgot it was a referral. So the referral percentage on this deal was 50%.
Oh my God.
And so she was like, I got $3,500, so it was way less than what I was thinking. So I got to hold off another few weeks, blah, 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 blah. But yay, I capped, right? Like if you get to the point where that is you capping and it's February.
Yeah.
So I guess it depends on when it started or whatever. But if you're capping on a consistent basis in any big box brokerage, like you should not be running your business so much to where it's so feast and famine, you know? And like that ability to make a decision. We used to talk about it. You become the CEO of your business, and you never want to be able to or have to make decisions with your business based off of cash flow. You should be able to make the decisions based off of what's best for your business because you're running the financial side. 100%. And there's a book called The Goal that's like required reading in like a lot of different MBA programs. And we had our executive team had to sit down and but read this giant book. And it was about a manufacturing plant. And it was like in manufacturing, like in real estate, we make it so complex. Like it's laid out the same as most businesses, right? You're
100%.
getting customers, you take care of those customers, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But in a manufacturing plant, it's easy to see, right? Like it goes from this station to this station, this station to this station. And
it's easy to see in real estate too.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you're tracking numbers and stuff, it's really like...
Well, you got the customer acquisition side.
Yep.
Right? So then you got the customer conversion side, right? So you're taking a lead, which is a human being from, wherever you got them from to a customer, which is when they sign up to buyer's agency or listing agreement. And then from there, you're facilitating the transaction, right? So once you got them under contract, then the next step is that transaction coordination piece, right? Then you're getting them to the closing table. And so like there's other little nuances and pieces, the guy that takes pictures, staging, sign person, what have you. But for the most part, like that's the process, right?
And I would almost like trick myself into thinking through this thing to be like, okay, did I do all the jobs today? Right. Like, because it rolls downhill. Like if you don't have anything down here, then the only place to focus in your business is over here. It'd be like somebody owning a shop and having no one in for 3 weeks and not trying to hire a sign twirler or going out and twirling the sign themselves.
Right.
Do something to get traffic because you ain't going to sell anything without any foot traffic in the store.
100%.
Yeah. And I think we make it more complex, and it's like, well, I just got to find the no, you just, and this is like one of my favorite things you've ever told anybody is like when you're brand new, if you do not have someone to go show a house to today, that's your only function. Is just don't worry about anything else. Just try to find one person to get in the car today or tomorrow that you can go show a house to.
You ever go to a store, like a small mom pop cottage industry store, and like you walk in and it's just cool as hell, but you just know from the vibe and the fact that you're the only person in there that's not going to work out. Yeah. The only person getting
churro place across the street.
The only person getting paid here is a landlord, right? Thank God for being a landlord. But honestly, like that's the only guy getting paid, and their problem instinctively because you know enough about business that you can walk in and you're like, okay, they don't have a function to get traffic, to get customers through the damn door, right? And without that, I love the sign twirler. Like I've gone into places because of sign twirlers,
Dude, I met a guy at a strip club. I guess.
Whoa.
Sorry. In my younger days. Sorry, Brittany. It was in Dallas.
What is a strip club?
Oh, what is a strip club? I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
I was just there. I walked in the wrong door. I was trying to go in to a Bible study, and I missed the door. Anyway.
All right. Back to the guy.
Right. So I meet this guy, and it was the first time I was in my early 20s. It's the first time I had actually seen a black card. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And so
the Amex card?
Yeah. So it's on this bar, and he's waiting to pay, and he's just ta-ting, ta-ting, like twirling it a little bit. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's a black card. What do you do? Him and his buddy that were there owned a sign twirling company in San Diego that companies would go to him because sign twirlers have high turnover.
Yeah.
So if you hire them directly, like you're always hiring a sign twirler.
100%.
So he would charge like $14 an hour and then pay his people minimum wage to twirl signs.
Yeah.
And he was just making money on the spread.
I love it.
He was making like $3.2 million a year in profit.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's so many ways to make money in America. But, I think the thing is this, like there's so many roadmaps to get you to where you're trying to go.
Right.
You just have to choose the one that fits your personality and that doesn't suck. And so for me, like I tried, the hard hitting, just, love, rejection, all the crap that they taught me, which was wrong. And I couldn't feel good about myself doing it. So when I learned direct response, which means that like they've responded to something, it just changed the game for me because it changed the positioning of how I would talk to the customer. Instead of me being so subservient, it would be like, hey, I'm just getting back to you about what you asked about. And by the way, are you looking to, make a move in the next 3 to 6 months? By the way, are you looking to sell your house in the next 3 to 6 months? And then from there, I had a canned spiel on how I would help them, which was the offer, right? Yep. And they would either say yes to the offer or no to the offer, right? And that was it. And that process changed my life. And that's why I'm so passionate about it still, because without that, like, I don't even know what I would be doing. I'd probably be like a frustrated agent still making, shit money, wondering why my life sucked, 20 years later, 25 years later, I'd be like, at the higher end of the bottom of the marketplace in my market, Yeah. That sounds like hell. And so like that process is the process. I would say you don't even need the other process. You just get that one down, because if you can do that, you can screw up every single conversation you have with every single lead. And the law of averages, statistically, you're still going to get more business than not having that in place.
Yep.
Right. So, and I did too. I screwed up lots of them. I remember I felt like I invented fire, because I would like call through my leads that were fresh and newly generated on my couch in my underwear. And I'm like, this is the best life ever, you know? But I would screw up a lot of them through that process, but they would still, like, some of them would say, yeah. And then I'd have a customer to meet with, right? They, in a vacation market, they'd be coming on the weekend always, you know? So they'd be coming. And, you know, that's all I needed was somebody to get in my car to show property to that I could have a shot.
What did you get your conversion up to?
I don't like to say because no, I'm serious.
I know.
Because most people are like, well, I don't want to set an unrealistic expectation. But here's the thing. I had an unrealistic expectation. My unrealistic expectation was the buyer doesn't come on the lot unless they're willing to buy, right? So like if they're filling out the form, if they're shopping on my website, if they're looking at properties, they want to buy something, whether it's now or later, right? So like I would never take some bullshit put off of whatever the hell they had, right? Or if they tried telling me, you know, oh, I already got an agent, like I had a spiel ready for that. I didn't care, right? Like I was just going to devour any objection.
So the reason why I asked is that mentality, that like just fight through anything. I don't care. I'm going to figure it out, right? Like the average online lead conversion in the country is like 2.5% or something like that.
Yeah.
So if you go and look at that, if that's your basis of your expectation, then if you get 3 leads to convert out of 100, it's good, right?
Dude, I think the difference is this. Number one, when I started selling real estate, it was a luxury because my other job was manual labor. So like I loved being in air conditioning. I was like, dude, this ain't work, right? Like I have a nice silk shirt on. Like this is crazy, right? And anytime I got a lead, right, which I didn't even call them leads back then. Anytime I got a name and a phone number from literally, generally always Uptime, right? I would call those people until they bought, died, or told me to stop. Right? Like seriously. So when I would go in for Uptime, I wasn't sitting there waiting for the phone to ring. I'm calling through my list. Right. And that was the mentality. Like if somebody gave me their permission to talk to them, I was never going to not talk to them again. I never got in my head like, oh, maybe they don't want to talk to me. Oh, maybe I'm going to be a pest. Oh, maybe they're going to get sick of me. I don't care. I don't care if you're sick of me. Get sick of me. It's my job to call you. It's not your job to call me. So like that was my mentality. And so once I started getting leads coming in, it was the same mentality. Only the difference was I'm just calling you back, right? I'm just getting back to you. You'd requested this. Oh, I don't remember that. Doesn't matter. Next part of the script, right? Like, oh, well, are you looking to make a move in the next little while? Oh, well, I don't really know. Yeah, you do. You're just trying to bullshit me and put me off, right? So ask them the question again, ask them a different way, make a little small talk, and then hit them with the offer. And that's it. And I'd be on and off the phone, whether they were buying a $80,000 house or a $3 or $4 million house in the same amount of time. It didn't matter because I was that dialed in, right? I treated them all the same, you know, which I felt like was a high level of respect, you know, for all customers. You know, I'm on, I set the appointment, I set the follow-up, I'm off, right? Because you don't want to be the guy that talks too long, because then the next time you call, they'll be like, oh God.
That guy.
Yeah.
I don't have an hour.
Yeah.
You're really dating yourself with selling your house for $80,000.
They were trailers. This is Lake of the Ozarks, bro. You go from one house that was like literally, you know, $80,000 trailer and go like a mile and a half down the road and you're at a $5 million house, you know? I mean, it's still like that today.
I was going to say, there's a lot of Southwest Missouri that's like
Dude,
that.
Well, Florida where I'm at, I found this beautiful house. I loved it. I was like, oh man, this is it. I'm gonna put in an offer. And I looked on Street View and it's just like a mile of mobile homes, like all the way till you get to the door. Right.
That's
like,
crazy.
yeah, it's all these massive, monstrous, like multi-million-dollar homes on the bay across the street from like, thousands of trailers, you know? And I'm like,
crazy.
yeah, I'm like, I don't know if I want my kids riding their bike around there. You know, I don't know what that neighborhood, of course, trailers are nice there and people, you know, are just people, but that's a lot of volume of humans, you know, close to me and my kids. So if it were apartment complexes, I'd probably feel the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.